As a founder, I feel like I can come here and say that I have anxiety.
As a founder, it's something that I took on. It's something I signed the contract virtually with myself.
Yeah. So I think, oh my god, I lost my train of thought. More people with ADHD should become founders.
I think relax is the easiest word to say, toughest word to implement.
Absolutely.
Like, don't tell me just relax.
To be honest, I'm very lucky to have like a very good female tribe of girlfriends.
That's needed.
हाँ stress ही है, चला जाएगा. 1 or 2 days you wait.
Hi everyone, welcome to the FoundHers Podcast series. I'm Hinal Mehta, the founder of StartInc, and today with me I have Tanvi, who's actually my schoolmate and the founder of Rum Raisin. So hi Tanvi, we're so glad to have you on board today.
I'm really excited to be here too.
This entire episode is going to be completely unfiltered and raw. We want to hear your story, your experiences, and obviously speak about mental health and founders, one of the key problems that we discuss in today's day and age. So before we start, why don't you go ahead and give us a 1-minute pitch about Rum Raisin and what is it all about?
Okay, so Rum Raisin Studio is basically an art studio. I am an illustrator, so I create all the art around it. And the concept is to create empathy-driven products for anxious minds. So as an anxious and neurodivergent person myself, I feel like I can really relate to the struggles because a lot of these things I have been through myself. And I decided to create these tools that would help you make your day-to-day mental health journey a little bit more playful and more joyful, which we don't see a lot of brands do in today's day. You see a lot of brands be very meek in terms of the color palette, so we're going like bold with colors and we have a lot of illustrations, and it's basically for your inner child. So that is the crux of what we do at Rum Raisin Studio.
That's good. You did that in 1 minute, like on point. So really glad. Yes. How are you feeling today?
I am feeling a little nervous, to be honest, because as I said, I'm an anxious person.
So which product would you go to when you're feeling anxious?
It would mostly be my 54321 keychain, which is.
Tell me more about it.
Should I tell you about it? Please. Okay, so it's basically this keychain that I designed after my therapist told me about this technique of grounding yourself when you are super anxious, and when you get really overwhelmed or like you have a wave of anxiety just like overpower you, what happens is your body just freezes and you're unable to take any rational thoughts into action. So at that point, what therapists recommend is that the first thing you have to do is bring your senses into the present moment and ground your body. And that, while it sounds very easy to do, it's one of the hardest things to do if
you're describing my morning.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have anxiety and if you've ever experienced this, you know how hard it is to in that moment be like, yeah, now name 5 things that you see. That's just not going to come to your brain. So that's when I designed this keychain where it has 5 petals, and each petal basically tells you a sense and what you're supposed to do. So it goes from 5 things you can see to 4 things you can touch and all the way down to 1 thing that you can taste.
With the counts.
With the counts. So if you have this on you, it's on my keys all the time, and every time I'm freaking out, I'm just like, I'm just like, okay, 5 things that I can see, and then I actually go through my mind like a little kid, and I'm like, okay, I see a TV, I see a tree, I see a this, I see a that, and I engage each sense of mine, and that, I don't know what the magic is, but it works, and it has brought me down from a lot of anxious moments. So this is a product that is a bestseller at Rum Raisin because I think it's just so
it's
common.
So handy.
It's really very convenient. And I was actually surprised the amount of people that ordered this, and that made me feel so seen because I was like, okay, so everybody's pretty much going through the same thing at this point. So yeah.
I mean, we are. Yeah. I think after COVID, many people are going through it, and you know, coming from stress, like you mentioned, the feeling of numbingness. Yes. I can relate to that on a daily basis, so to say, especially in the early stage, because there are so many startups, so many founders, and just so much happening in our own nation. Yeah. So you know, this is just a thought that I've always had. Founders have been there since a while. It's not like Indians founders came after COVID. Yeah. But mental health came after COVID.
Right.
However, the stress you feel as a founder or the stress you feel when you're starting out was there from before, and mental health as a concept came now. So what is your take on just founders and stress and founders and mental health in today's day and age, and say probably back then when it wasn't called mental health, but I'm sure they faced anxiety.
I definitely think that what we are just putting labels now, the labels have always been there for doctors and for psychiatrists, but for the lay people, I feel like those labels have been just coming all over social media, and people are like, oh, anxiety is a thing and depression is a thing, and now people are starting to talk about it, which is why I think we feel like it's very recent, but I'm pretty sure that it's been there in different forms in all the past generations as well. And I think for founders specifically, it has become a little bit easier now because the stigma, while it's still very much there, it's at least more spoken about. Like as a founder, I feel like I can come here and say that I have anxiety and I make products for anxious people without feeling like that makes me look weak, or that makes me look like somebody who can't handle her business, or somebody who can't, you know, get her shit together. So it's not that. I think it's definitely easier for us now because of the conversations that I've been having, that people have been having. But back then it was there. I see it in the older generation for sure. They just don't know that, you know, probably
it's called anxiety, or it's called...
Yeah. So they will just be like, हाँ, stress तो लेते हैं, stress तो होता ही है. But when it becomes pathological, or when it becomes something that is interfering with your day-to-day functioning, is when I think you need to address it, which our generation is doing, and I'm really proud of us for doing that.
So I think I should take inspiration from you. Honestly, whatever you described is me. I feel like as a founder, it's something that I took on. It's something I signed the contract virtually with myself when I decided to start up. And it's something that you need to face front. So it's nice to see that you embrace it so proudly, you know, like, you know, just as if that's me and that's just what I do. So that's really interesting. Let's go back to a little bit about Rum and Raisin. So why this name? Is rum your favorite alcohol?
No. Well, actually the story is really funny, because when I started the brand, it had started off as just like a experience for me to get into entrepreneurship. It wasn't supposed to be the whole thing that it is today. And just for fun, I was just running names by my mom, and she just happened, we went through a list of names, and she was like, so what about Rum and Raisin? It sounds very like there's an alliteration, it sounds catchy. It's something that, you know, something that is indulgent, something you can buy for yourself when you're feeling down. So what about that name? I think it's cute. And without giving it a second thought, I was like, yeah, that sounds good. It's a fun project, why not? And that's
fun project.
That's literally how it started. Like, it wasn't a whole thing. I didn't spend months on it. It was an evening, a very casual evening in my house, where my mom was like, I like this name. I was like, sounds good, let's get it going. So that's pretty much the story there.
Wow. Yeah. And what did you feel when this project became a business? What do you think made it a business? Like, how was that shift, and how did you deal with it? Because a business, when you're starting something, like I remember when I was starting, I had like 3 months of mental preparation. You are being a founder, you're not going to get salary, you have to be ready, you have to, like, I was preparing, but winging it like this takes courage. So how did that happen?
Honestly, I pretty much winged the entire thing. Like, I am somebody who...
Are you still winging it?
Yes. But I'm somebody who really has everything planned out, and I am an organized person, but I feel like when it came to this one thing, when I look back, I feel like I don't recognize myself. I am like, how did I just out of the blue came one day and I was like, yeah, this is my life direction. Like, this is something that is very not me, actually, if I look back at it. But I think at the time, it was just, I was so excited by the concept of putting my art out there in a very functional way that it just became very real. Like, I feel like I grew up with the art studio. Like, my journey after I graduated from NID, I had a rough idea of what I wanted to do, but Rum and Raisin kind of became this space of play and just excitement where I would go and I would make things and discover things about myself and who I wanted to be as a designer. So I think it was a very like mutual process where me and the brand have just kind of grown up together in the past couple of years, and now I think it's in a place where I know concretely and I can call it a business because I have things in place and it's functioning as a system. But before, it was just like an art studio of me, where I was just creating products that I loved, and I was able to find audiences that also resonated with it. So it was a very organic process. It wasn't like, okay, my business is going to start in like a couple of months. That kind of didn't happen in my case. So it was just natural.
Just natural.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm sure when you started, like when you were in school, you must have had like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer. So what was your dream, and you know, how did this entire journey shape for you? Because you did mention you had anxiety that came through as well. So I'm sure that you had your ups and downs through it.
Yeah,
so why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I've had a lot of ups and downs, and I think a biggest part in my 20s now is just understanding that ups and downs are normal. But like when I was a teen, I was like, okay, down means down. Now there is no up after this. That's how catastrophical my thinking had been at a point. But I think I have a bunch of creative people in my family. Like I have grown up in a creative space in terms of just drawing and painting and doing crafts. Like I was always like in school also. I was like a very artsy kid that used to just like at the end of the day, if I was very stressed in school, I would come back and I would draw and my mind would be like quiet. And I think that is like the first thing that I did to, now I would call it ground myself, which I didn't know I was doing back then. Like that was kind of my safe space. Art became my safe space where I would just go to it at the end of the day. So I think I realized like, you know, maybe like 8th or 9th standard that this is something that I love and I keep coming back to again and again. So I want to create a career in art.
So you know, that's actually interesting because you were, I remember you as Tanvi school topper, Tanvi prefect.
Yes.
So from that, having doctor parents, I'm sure you had that Indian responsibility of 100%. Sorts that Tanvi has to do this.
I'm an only child as well.
Oh,
so
okay.
I feel like I have taken the pressure of everyone in the family because I'm like, if I have overachieving parents and then I have to like make them proud and I have to make everyone proud. So that, I think I was always an anxious kid. And then when this kind of pressure is put on you, whether it is like, you know, not even my parents were still pretty okay, but just generally like the environment and the expectations of everyone. And then if you're a kid with potential, I feel like you're pretty much screwed. You'd rather not be a kid with potential, you know, because the amount of pressure that is put on you at the time is insane. So I think, oh my God, I lost my train of thought. See, I have ADHD. This is a part of it. I'm like, my train of thought has gone somewhere else.
It's fine, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm a visual thinker. I can think of anything in visuals, but numbers and text means my brain will stop. So I'm like, okay, so I think I need to go somewhere where I can problem solve with visuals. I can like express myself through visuals.
Your potential to the best.
Yeah, so I was like, so then when I spoke to my parents about it, they were nothing but supportive and they were like, you have to do what you love to do. So that was very clear from the beginning. So I think this whole doctor thing, they were the two people in the world who were like, don't become a doctor. You make sure you go and do what you want to do because that's what's going to make you happy at the end of the day. So that's how I kind of made my way into design, and then slowly and steadily it has become my full-time thing.
It's been a journey. Having supportive parents is the key, is the key. I think I feel that my dad is an entrepreneur, and when I started out, like before when I was an undergrad, he told me, you have a spark. You have to figure out what it is. And then I was like, okay, I want to start this company. He's like, okay, this could be your spark. Go for it. And I think that's definitely something that you need in your early stages. So why don't you just tell me, like, when you started out, of course, initially it was a project, then you went into a business, you have to create a website, you have to have customer interactions. I'm sure there's a whole space, especially when you're in D2C. So how did you kind of learn that coming from a design background, and how did you cope with it mentally?
I think this is a very valid question for young entrepreneurs. It's like, how do you wear so many different hats and still pretend to have it together? You know, that is, I think, one of the hardest things that we have to do as young entrepreneurs, especially because I don't have a lot of business background in my family. In fact, I feel like I would be the first person who started a D2C kind of brand. Like my parents are self-employed, so they understand the amount of time it takes to, you know, build your own self, and, you know, it takes time to set yourself into the industry. But since our industries are so vastly different, beyond a point, I wasn't able to get that business sense kind of assistance or like a little bit of help from them. They were just supportive in the sense that we know you can handle it. How you're going to handle it is your problem, pretty much, you know. So I think I personally, in the beginning, I had a lot of fun because I get bored very easily also. So just getting to learn all these different things was very exciting to me in the beginning. I was like, I can learn a little bit of photography, a little bit of web design, a little bit of this. That way I had a little bit of background, but I definitely had to sit for hours and hours on YouTube, learning new skills, figuring things out, failing like a million times, I would say. Like, I can't even tell you the amount of times I've had a vision and not been able to execute it, and then had to problem solve, saying what went wrong, what could I do better. So it was a very strenuous process.
How did you feel when, like, how did you cope with it when you have ADHD as well as when you know that you've suffered with certain things, you're all constantly suffering? It's obviously, like they say, it's easier said than done.
Right.
And you can make it up for, say, 25 days of the month. But what about the remaining 5? Like, what did you do and how did you fight that?
So I think when it comes to something like ADHD, when you're hyper-fixated, you can do anything. Like, I can work for 8 hours straight and I will get the best job done. But if I can't, like if I just don't have the executive function that day, I am just like, I'm unable to get out of bed. So it's like very extreme for me. So I think I would make the most of the days where I woke up feeling inspired, and I would just like go on that day, and to get those like little hits of dopamine being like tick, 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 I've handled it. And then that would allow me some downtime when I needed it. So I think the biggest challenge for me was learning how to work with my brain as opposed to against it, because our system is very like work in a very specific way, and you work the same amount every day, like a 9 to 5 you show up at 9. My brain doesn't work like that, and I feel like a lot of people who are neurodivergent, their brains don't work like that. As somebody with ADHD, it's like my attention span can be lower, but I can, when I am very interested in something, my attention span is great. So it's like,
it's like extremes of
it is extremes. I feel like people who have ADHD are also very, very creative, because your brain can like cope with a lot of, like it can come up with a lot of stuff, it can like just be very excited about things. So just like the low is also really bad, the high is great. So you know, when
it is describing a startup, like that's literally what it is.
So, which is why I'm like, I think more people with ADHD should become founders. They will do so well, because I was like, I'm bored of photography, I have web design to do, I'm bored of web design, I have like there is 100 other things for me to, I can keep switching whenever I want to, like it is like.
But that's also not a good thing. Sometimes
it can be detrimental. I'm telling you the good parts of it.
It's when it's controlled, then probably it's good.
Yes, exactly.
Otherwise,
it can be very chaotic, because you will do nothing properly then. If you are in that space where you know you're just jumping to the point where it's detrimental, you will end up not doing anything. So I think for me, I worked with a therapist. I needed to understand how I can make my, you know, whatever's going on with my brain work for me, like I said. So she used to come up with like a little plan for me, and we would do it in a way where I was like, okay, now this task is exciting me at this point, so I will just get it done in the moment. Because I think I create best also if I'm like super motivated and super excited. Like for me, like in the middle, like in the middle of the night, I will wake up and I'll be like, tomorrow morning I will do this first. Or like I will just sit and draw this thing, it's come into my head, so I have to do it. So then I will allow myself to move my schedule around in a way that I give way to that inspiration, and I keep those tasks. So now I have a proper system in place where I let my brain do its little thing and then come back. But it's taken a while to get here, for sure, because I've seen like the dark side of it, and the lack of motivation and the struggle that comes with just the pressure that you put on yourself to show up as somebody who is competent. Like you said in the beginning, when you're a founder, you have to be competent and you have to know all these things. Like, so that pressure is tremendous. So self-compassion is the hardest thing that I've had to learn in this entire journey of being a founder for the past 2 years. So yeah.
So someone had told me this, you know, when I started out, they were like, it's going to hit you after a couple of months when you will see the money in your bank account come in and the money go out.
Yes.
And nothing coming to you. But you are seeing the excitement of people paying you, and then the crumbling of it kind of going out.
Oh my God, that's so real.
Yeah, that is really real. And I was like, of course, I know I'm a founder, I'm going to ace it. And in 8 months, 9 months, it was like, you know, your old age, you're trying to like just scrape through life. That's where I had reached, where I was like, this is getting tough. Like 25th of the month till 5th of the next month was the worst period of my life.
Yes.
So with a lot of youngsters, patience level at a startup, in your starting out, be it to a founder or be it anybody in the team, comes with patience, even from us as founders. Because sometimes you're just like, this employee is not performing, money is running out, targets are not met.
Yeah, that's very true. I think patience is the hardest thing for me, especially because who I am as a person, I'm very impatient. So my mother will every day, she'll be like, you have to be patient. That's the one thing that you lack is patience. You're an absolutely impatient
I think every founder lacks patience.
Yeah, in the early stages. Like, why is it taking so long? That just keeps happening to me. But I think with her especially, I've always maintained the communication to be very kind, very empathetic. So even if obviously there are some times when she does make errors, like the orders go wrong or like a couple of things, but I always address it from a point of kindness so that she also doesn't feel attacked, or she doesn't feel like...
Why do you think you have to do that? Like,
because I think she responds better. I think if I talking to her from a place of, okay, human error is normal, it's fine. Like out of 15 orders or 20 orders, if one order may make it a small mistake, it's fine. So now that is technically a loss for me because I have to reship the order, I might have to remake the product. So there are a couple of things, but every time I tell it to her from a place of kindness, I think she understands it also, and she's like, yeah, this won't happen next time. So it's kind of very...
And you see that.
And I see that. Like, I can see that she's a sincere person and who will make that change that is required. So I think I've maintained that because I try to put myself in her shoes, or like, even if there's an intern, I try to put myself in their shoes, and I'm like, I probably would function better if somebody spoke to me from a place of, like, you know, assertiveness, but kind assertiveness, as opposed to someone being like, ye kya kiya hai, pagal hai kya, or like these kind of things. Because I've worked in settings
that
very much happens. Because I've worked in settings that I was the employee and I was talked to like that, or, you know, like anything. I've seen somebody else be talked to like that, and I just shut down. Like, my response is shut down, don't work. So I'm like, ye nahi chahiye, I need you. So then
shut the books and I'm leaving.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I think in that sense, having an open conversation that's very kind, but assertive. I think it's important that you have to be assertive as a founder, irrespective of who you're talking to. That is important.
Nice. Okay, so, you know, going back to mental health, I think I'll just share a personal experience. Last year, I decided to take a small trip when I was pivoting in my business, and for 2 weeks at the trip, I was still in India mentally.
Oh my God.
So I think taking a break comes with a lot of guilt. How do you deal with that? And I mean, have you ever had breaks in your life that you've felt this sort of guiltiness? And what was your, I say, mantra to kind of fight through the guiltiness and actually enjoy the break that you deserve?
You know, honestly, I'm not very good at this skill. Like, this is a skill that my therapist will be like, you need to take the break, and for the break to be beneficial to you, you actually have to relax. Because if you don't relax, you're just coming back more stressed. But
I think relax is the easiest word to say, toughest word to implement. Absolutely. Like, don't tell me just relax. I'm no more just relaxing.
Because I understand it logically. It makes sense on an intellectual level that if I am relaxing and I'm thinking about work, I'm not relaxing. This makes sense as a sentence, but it is very difficult to inculcate and implement, especially if you're someone who's put a lot of pressure on yourself since you were a little kid, which I am. Like, I've put pressure on myself where I'm like, how can I get like 19 or 20? Like,
you were the school topper.
I was horrible. Okay.
I was getting like 8 or 20.
So this kind of pressure, if it's been put, because my family is very overachieving, okay, like from all these different levels. So I think it's just there where it's very normal. Since you were a little kid, it's like you have to do your very best, or you are somewhere you're lacking in some way. So now ideally that should stop after school, but then my parents stopped doing that to me. I started doing it to myself, where I was like, you know, you have to show up and you have to be at your 100% all the time, and that is like a crippling amount of pressure to put on yourself, and eventually you will break, which I did, you know. So I think that's when I had to deal with my biggest mental health crisis till date, is when I did not take a break and I refused to let myself even like off the hook for like a day, and then it just kept piling up, and I was like, no, I can handle it, till the point where my body was just like, no, that's it, we will break down. If you are not listening to me, I will break down.
Did you break down? Like, what happened? How did you realize that this is it, I'm done?
Because I truly love my job. Like, I love what I do, and when I realized that something was wrong is when I woke up and I absolutely hated my day, and I was like, I just don't want to do this, I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, there was this sense of like resentment towards the work that like 6 months pehle I was like, this is the best job in the world. And I think I have been this person who is so passionate about my work that my art and the work, that just my illustration, everything, that has been a very defining factor in who I am as a person. Because if you think like any random person also, if they're like, you know, like friends or family friends, they're like, what is Tanvi? She's an artist. Like that's kind of become a correlation. So then when I started feeling resentment towards my art, I was like, that's crazy, because if I am not an artist, who am I? So then I started having these existential crisis moments where I was like, okay, something's wrong, because this is the first time I'm ever experiencing a negative feeling towards the process of creating something, towards my materials, towards what I'm doing.
Something you felt you loved.
And
you loved. I mean, you not felt you did.
It is the love of my life. To be very honest, it is like, I love making things. Like, it is truly the love of my life. And when I woke up that day, I was just like, something's terribly wrong. So then I started talking to some of my friends, and to be honest, I'm very lucky to have like a very good female tribe of girlfriends.
That's needed.
It's so needed. Like I was going to come to that, but I think that is also a very important part of running a business, where I have people that I can just like break down to, and they will be like, you know, they will set me back up like building blocks. Literally, that's what they do to me. So I started talking to some of my closest friends, and they were like, this is not you. Like there is something needs to be done about this. Because I was having, I think, breakdowns almost daily, where I would just sit and cry, and I did not know why I was crying. So my mental health had just like gone down till the point, and I had ignored it for the longest time, which I think a lot of people who are in my personality type do, and in general also
I think it's a normal thing, because
Yeah.
you feel like, I never want to be weak.
Correct.
And that's a sense of weakness. So
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
show it till I can. I will keep a strong face
yes,
until one day it
exactly.
comes crumbling
Yeah,
down.
and then you are unable to function. Like I couldn't get up in the morning. I didn't want to like open the drapes. Like it was very bad, to the point where I was like, I have to take some form of action on this, because I at the end of the day, you're the only person who can truly get yourself to help, or get your, like, people can tell you that you need help or you need this, but you are the person that has to take you out of the bed into the therapist's office or like something, in whatever that looks like for you. So I think that process was very required for me, where I had to I didn't want to, but I had to become self-aware of the fact that something's wrong and I cannot function like this anymore. So that's when I started talking about it to generally people for the first time very actively, and then I started talking.
Do you think that gave you some power, like that gave you some
Absolutely.
additional confidence from people? They may not intentionally be like, oh, I'm supporting you, but maybe just being loud about it or being vocal about it and accepting it yourself and saying it.
Like,
did that help you?
For the longest time, I think I've always had anxiety, because I think it has just never been labeled, right? So then what happened was, like, the process of getting a diagnosis was very empowering for me, which everybody sees differently. Like for some people, I think getting a diagnosis is too scary, that they'd rather just go to therapy without the label and then help themselves, which is also fair, because it depends from person to person. But for me, I was like, I've spent so many years of my life feeling chronically stressed, and every time I've been that way, somebody's told me, हाँ stress ही है, चला जाएगा, 1 or 2 days you wait. Till the point where I was
1 or 2 days you
so
wait.
invalidated. They were like, it'll pass, you know, that kind of shit. So I was like, I'm feeling so invalidated that I need a doctor, I need a therapist, or somebody who is like a psychiatrist.
Someone
to be
from
like,
that level
to be like generalized anxiety disorder. I needed the words. I needed them to tell me exactly what was up with my brain and exactly how I can fix it. So I needed it on paper. So I think that was just me. I don't know, there might be more people like that. So after I went and spoke to them and they gave me the diagnosis officially, that's when I truly felt relief. I was like, thank God, because till then I was trying to tell myself that, you know, you are a normal brain, but you're not able to function like the rest of them. So something's wrong with you. And then I realized that it's not that. It's an actual disorder that can happen to you, just like diabetes or anything else. That's a physical disorder. So that's when I just started looking at myself with compassion instead of hatred for the first time in a long time. So I think that was the first time where I was like, now I'm going to go. I think we were talking about a break. So I'm like, now I came back full circle. Now, that's when I was like, I have to go on a 6 month. So I forced myself
You
to
took
go
a
on
6-month break?
I needed to. I was ill. Like, I feel
How
like...
did you get the...
I did. So
I can't take a weekend off.
Listen, I swear, like I couldn't do it. I was forced to do it by my therapist, and even my mother was very, very supportive through this time. She was like, you can't work more because you are not, like, I was just not functional. I was absolutely dysfunctional at that time. Like, I just couldn't do the things that I was doing. So I put out a post on Rum Raisin being like, I need some time to reflect and I need to come back. So I was very honest through, like, even with the community. I think I've always shown up as honestly as possible, because I think if people are buying from you as an artist, they want to know you as a person, which works for mostly for art businesses. I think you show up as the founder and as the artist. That helps. So I think I just put out a thing being like, I need a short break. I don't know when I'm going to come back, but I know that I will. And I know that it's going to be better once I'm back. So I just put out that thing, and then I just tried to take a step away, which was the hardest
You feel
thing.
guilty?
Like mountains of guilt. Like I was just crying out of guilt. Forget anything else. Guilt is a separate issue only in the list of issues that I was like dealing with at the time. Guilt was a massive one because I was like, I just can't, like, who am I to take a break? Why do I have the privilege to take a break? How dare I take a break?
You
like,
feel that in the early stages because you feel like you've not made it, and even if you take a break in 2-3 days, you see something on the news and you're like, wow,
you have to,
they're they're like 10 steps ahead of me. I need to. This was one thing, they taught us in kindergarten. One night it just came to me, and since then I'm preaching it to my entire team. But we learned the most obvious fairy tale that's there, which is slow and steady wins the race. And people don't understand that. They're not able to take it in, be it customers, be it clients, be it any stakeholders when you're running a business, right? So as a founder, even for you, even for me, sometimes to just be like, slow and steady wins the race. You gotta fight through, you gotta just be there. So coming to that, I mean, let's talk a little bit more about founders in today's age. You see so many startups, we with the same age, and we know so many people in Scottish itself, let alone in our own circles, who have businesses. So what do you think is mental health for founders? Because I feel a part of it is true. It's great. I think you had your own experience of anxiety. That's why you needed the validation. I didn't have an experience. I was fine. And I think I'm still fine, but I do have my own episodes. And I feel that's something you sign up for when you become a founder. So what's your take on founders and mental health, especially in today's generation, with a Gen Z market being so heavily involved in starting out?
Like you said, like you use the phrase, you sign up for it, right? Like you sign up for this trauma or this like stress or this whatever, this level of extremely lot of pressure driven kind of environment. I think that still is not it's not an excuse to be like, okay, now I can't get myself the help that I need because I have to put up this, like I have to be this person, or I have to be, I think you can, even as a founder, as a very strong woman, or as a strong, you can still be like, I think I need to take some time out for myself, whatever that looks like for you, and be like, these are the things that help bring me down to like a neutral level. I'm not like in a hyperactive state, or I'm not like very stressed out. I need certain things, like even if sometimes like a hot shower, or like just small things that you do for yourself. You should have a ritual for yourself to ground yourself to the point
back
where you're
like, because
that's when you're going to be able to function properly. I think the biggest lesson for me after having this entire mental health experience is that no matter how much I tell myself that I can handle it, if I'm like, you don't even have to be like pathologically having anxiety. That's people with an anxiety disorder. Even if you're normally stressed, I think learning how to self-regulate is a skill that everyone should have. It doesn't matter what your job profile is. Like you should be able to regulate yourself from a state of stress, from a state of sadness, from whatever
from
emotion.
A high to a
from
low.
A high to, you need to be
not a low, but I think
from a low to a middle ground. Like that neutral line, you should be able to pull yourself back into, and only you can do that. So I think learning self-regulation is the most important thing for founders and for anyone else.
You is the power. You is the power. I think that's just how you can, take a look at life. Coming back to your business, I think we know this. I manage a lot of brands on Amazon, and my clients keep asking me, why are we not getting reviews, Hinal? Why are we not getting good reviews? And I told them, right, in India, we're taught to put a bad review because that's just how our nature is. So how do you deal with, how have you dealt with a bad review that you may have got in your entire journey? I'm sure you've had either frustrated customers when your intern messed up, that. So how do you deal with that when that extreme level of a negative energy or that hatred gets slapped on your face, and you just have to still be poised and be together and be like, you can say whatever you want, but I know what I'm doing type. So how do you kind of
I think
deal with that?
I've reached that poised level now, but when I was fresh.
So tell me more about before then.
So when I was like freshly out of it, I had a lot of energy in me only, so I was like, I don't need, so I mean, it wasn't really a negative review specifically, but when you are selling art online, a lot of people want to put their value to it.
Right.
Like they want to be like, this is worth only this much and I will give it this much, or like they will just be rude to you on the face and be like, this is not worth that much.
How did you deal with that?
It was very rude. Like there were times when I was just like,
did you cry?
Why don't you think it's so? Like it used to really get to me. Now it doesn't.
How did you fight it? Like what did you tell yourself to?
I think after it got to me a couple of times is when I realized that it can't get to me, because it was affecting the way I spoke back to them. I was never rude back, but I would be like, I would give them back an answer as to why it is priced this much, or why, like I would be like, no, you can't think this way. You have to understand that this is the amount of effort artists put in. But I think I've reached a point where I'm like, it's all right that you think this way. We don't always have to agree. If you don't think that you don't think this is worth it, don't buy it. Like I feel like I've reached a point now where I'm able to separate that, so I don't necessarily always engage into comments. I've switched off, this is something that I did for my mental health, I've switched off like open comments on Rum Raisin. So you can't comment on things unless you're a follower and you know the story, because especially when it comes to something like mental health, people can have the most insane opinions on it. Like people can be like,
generation, so everyone has insane opinions on everything.
No, like there are people who are like, what if somebody just comments being like, there is no such thing as depression? Then what am I supposed to do, right? Like poor things, there are so many people who follow me who are struggling or who deal with these things. So I didn't want this kind of, it's a platform where anybody can come and put their opinion. It is not that. It is like a little safe space for people who have anxiety, or people who are just not even have anxiety, just somebody who wants to handle their stress better from a place of self-compassion. There is no place for active hustle culture or somebody who's just like, no, you can't take yourself. Like I don't want that energy there. So I just switched off all the comments, and I think that's the best thing that I've ever done, because if I ever get like DMs or anything, I can just not respond to them. So I think creating that boundary between me and my customers who understand what I'm trying to do versus
your community, basically.
Yeah, my community versus people who don't really understand what I'm trying to do is, I think that was important. But back then I wasn't able to do that. Back then I was like, I have to imbibe every single person's opinion, and as a people pleaser, you're like, I have to like make sure everyone's but no
happy.
There's no piece of art that you can create, I think, that everybody is going to like. There are always going to be
I don't think there's anything anyone can do which makes everyone happy.
So yeah.
Thank you for that. I think we're going to move on to something interesting. I think this is just to get to know you as a woman in business, that's growing in our country. A quick rapid fire, one word answers or one sentence answers only.
Okay.
So, can we start?
I'm so stressed.
I think
you
need that, yeah.
I need my worry stone.
You can just keep it with you.
Yes.
Which fictional character would you want as the brand ambassador of Rum Raisin?
I would say Hermione Granger.
Your go-to sitcom for a happy mood?
I have many actually. The Office, Big Bang Theory, Friends. I will watch most of the club. Modern Family. Recently I've been into Modern Family.
Okay. Your go-to coffee brand?
Davidoff.
Okay. Toughest task of being an entrepreneur?
Showing up every day when it's hard.
How many times has the thought of giving up or shutting shop come to you?
Maybe twice or thrice on the really hard days. But it doesn't come very often because I know how much I love it.
What is your ideal Saturday night plan?
Going out with my girls. Just having a girls' night, because my girls are very far away from me now, but if they were close by, just having a really fun girls' night.
Strangest experience you've had with a customer?
I will like send them, so this can't be a one sentence thing.
No, but yeah.
Yes. I'm like, how do I put this in a sentence? But I think they will ask me about the product information, and then I will send them everything, and then they will ask me the same questions again, and then I have to very patiently, very politely say the same answers again, and I'm like, I've sent you the link, it's right there. But like just constantly dealing with people just not reading what you're writing.
Customer satisfaction is key.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that would be it.
Okay. Love, hate, tolerate about being a founder?
Okay, I think I love my creative freedom.
Okay.
I hate the fact that you have to be patient and you have to just really pay your dues and just go through the grind. I wish it was not this hard. And tolerate, I think, would be the menial tasks that are not creative, like taxes or like accounts or like those kind of things.
You have to tolerate
those.
You
have to do them. I'm like, fine, I will do them, but I'd rather not do them.
If Rum Raisin had a Tinder profile, what would its bio read?
Stressed but well dressed.
Ooh. your favorite artist to help
my
you
favorite
through
artist.
your Monday blues?
I think I would have, so I have this illustrator that I really look up to. His name is Chris Sickles. I've followed his work since 2018 and he has a sculptural illustration studio in the US. So I just look at his work whenever I'm feeling a bit down and I guess get instantly inspired because I just love his technique and the passion with which he shows up. Nice. So I think I would look at an artist who is very passionate to feel excited.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now, these are questions of this or that. Just pick what you would prefer, what you like, what Tanvi likes.
Okay.
Stress eating or stress shopping?
Stress shopping.
Fear of running out of money or fear of losing passion?
Fear of losing passion.
Okay. Workout mornings or meditation mornings?
Meditation mornings. I can't work out in the morning. I barely work out in the evening.
I barely work out. Wine girl or whiskey girl?
Wine.
Unlimited
white wine.
White wine. Specification.
Yes.
Great. Would you rather have an unlimited ad spend or no Shopify fees?
Unlimited ad spend. Because my ad spend just makes me cry every day.
Fair. Are you more of a breakfast meeting or a dinner meeting person?
Dinner meeting.
All right. And since you're an illustrator, this is going to be tricky. Do you prefer taking notes on an iPad or you're a traditional book and pen girl?
Book and pen, paper and pen. I need to feel the scratching of the pen on the paper.
Nice. Interesting.
Yeah.
So thank you. I think we covered up most of it.
Awesome.
And just to conclude this entire episode, as you know, the name of the series is FoundHers. And we believe that every woman who starts a business is finding something.
Yeah.
So what is it that Tanvi is finding?
I am finding my own voice as an illustrator and being able to make an impact in the thing that is currently affecting me. I think that is the most powerful thing. So I think I'm finding my voice as an artist as I grow up.
So thank you for sharing that. And I really, really hope that you find your voice the same way this podcast is to help women out there starting in their entrepreneurial journey find their mental health and their mental peace. And I think
Absolutely.
a lot of relatable real life content for
Very
them to
much so.
Feel like it's okay, girl,
Yeah.
we got it.
And we're not alone.
Yeah, we're not alone.
Yeah.
We're not alone. The girl
We got
power
this.
kind of stays. So thank you for that. And
Thank you for having me.
I hope that you find your voice and your experience through
Thank
this
you
entire
so much.
journey.